Welcome to the dark and rainy deep. This is a country train track crossing. And I want to emphasize how dark it looks. I mean, obviously I'm not looking at the windshield because I've got nowhere to go. I'm looking at what y'all see, and you can't see much. There's not a lot of lighting. It's dark. There's two lights for the intersection, and then some really small lights on the crossbar. The train itself is just a dark bullet flying through. So, obviously, this is not going to help my commute today. Going to be late to work. I was probably already a little bit late, but what was helpful to see is that the train is moving, which you also probably can't see. It's moving from left to right, which means it will be gone soon, and it's also moving at a healthy pace. So the end is near. I'm just looking through here. I don't know. Oh, well, that's the problem. There we go. We weren't looking at the right thing. Okay. So there's the train. You guys missed the train. That's my bad. Didn't flip it around because it was so dark. But now you get a nice fresh view of the day. Cars have backed up quite a ways, so I think I got here at the... Oh man, that guy goes to work at the... right there. That has to be frustrating to be half a block from your workplace, stuck by a train. But he's not going to climb over it. 7 o'clock a.m. Central Time, USA. We are in, I believe, unincorporated Johnson County, Kansas. I believe. I think this is called Kenneth Road, which is just on the inside of the Kansas state line, west of the Missouri state line. And if we stay on this long enough, we will eventually meet State Line Road. So this is Kenneth. This is proper Kenneth. So we are proper Kenneth Road, I mean, this right turn. So we are still in Kansas. But this is undeveloped area because it is a floodplain. So you got to be careful driving through here because there's a reason nothing's built here. It's a sod farm because you can flood sod and it's not going to be the end of the world. You flood somebody's house, well, you got bigger problems. A couple houses on the right. That's the only area that's got any kind of development at all. The old city of Kenneth is up here. It's probably been washed out in the flood, so there's a service station, old service station, and nothing else. But it was a stop at one point in time for people whose cars didn't have enough fuel to get them to Kansas City, or Olathe for that matter. It was probably a long drive. So for those of you just joining, we're having a rainy commute in the Kansas City area of the United States, which is a city both in Kansas and Missouri. It's a popular misconception. The predominant entity is on the Missouri side. That's the more famous home of the sports teams, although Kansas City, Kansas is on the rise, and they have sports teams as well. The soccer team, and the racetrack, and a lot of... they're really trying to attract development over there. But we've already had a train come through, so it shouldn't stop us up here. Y'all missed the train, but we're going to get pretty soon into Martin City, which is another community in, I believe it's in Missouri. I once had a box in Martin City, Missouri, and it was another small town. It actually has a downtown, brick buildings, all that. That's a nice little area. Gentrifying quickly, unfortunately. Becoming unrecognizable. Got a lot of new developments, residential through here. There's also, a brewery warehouse where all the, you drive through here at 2 a.m. and you see this garage door open full of beer kegs. And you think, man, all a kid would have to do is hop the fence and then get a whole keg of beer. But we don't know those kegs aren't empty, so I wouldn't recommend it. But it is somewhat industrial. We've got commercial office park over here. We've got somebody saying something on the chat. I can't read it, but good morning to you. Happy that you're here. It can be interesting driving in the rain. I like to document rainy drives just because anything can happen. When I bought my tires were supposed to last until 280,000 miles. And I thought that was such a joke at the time. I thought, this car will never make it to 280,000 miles. It's hilarious. But I bought the tires anyway because and they were worth more than the car was at the time. And it turned out to be a good choice because the car's still running 5 years later. And the tires are still good. We're at 273,000 miles, so the tires ought to last a little bit longer. But more than once I've had to spend more than this car's worth on a part or a repair bill or something like that. But the darn thing just keeps running, so what are you going to do? You can't really replace an Escalade. It's newer, or anything close. So it's a luxurious ride, it's a comfortable ride. It's actually a lot more comfortable than new cars. If I go and rent a car for work, it's not as nice as this to drive. Now, when I get an upgrade to something luxurious, one of those new Volvos I drove the other day, the SUV XC90, whatever that is, that was a heck of a car. Real comfortable. AI assistant right in the dash and the tablet screen. But these tablet screens are great, but what happens when the tablet breaks and it's the control center to your entire car? They kind of got you. Alright, so we're finally on the highway. It's a dark as heck highway. It is lit later on down the line, but it's a little bit daunting. So this trick I did yesterday, I'm going to turn on my fog lights. It's a little bit of extra help. The downside against traffic is that all the oncoming headlights kind of blind you, but it also adds some illumination to the roadway, but it also adds glare, so it's kind of like, there's pros and cons to everything. So here's our first street lamp on the other side of the road. It's wild to have a 4-lane 60-mile-an-hour highway with no lighting. Kind of strange, but this area kind of falls in a dead zone of no wealthy municipal control, so you get state money, but luckily nobody's contributing. I mean, there's no signage, if you notice, of any kind. It's just a blank highway through the woods. But 4-lane grassy median, they're contemplating expansion in the future. And obviously, it's a useful road for me to go to work, so it is on the up. So I'm going close to 70. This is a lot better than yesterday's ride, where everybody was going really slow. This car does well in the rain. It's got, I guess, all-wheel drive, I guess you'd call it. There's no button to activate it. It just kind of shows up when you need it, and you don't have any real control over that. But, the cars, my newer cars, have all had hydroplane incidents. And this car has had no known hydroplane incidents in the 20 years it's been in the family. Which is, given its weight class and center of gravity and everything, that's interesting to me. But you can also put Jeep tires on this thing, where the new luxury SUVs today, they've got these slick tires that don't have a ton of tread on them. So maybe it's not a surprise that they spin out in certain circumstances, because frankly there's just a lot less tread on them. So this facility to my left over here is a really bizarre, like, nuclear energy building something. Another strange reason why there's a highway here, there are at any given hour of the night like a full parking lot. I think they have a shuttle that takes people in. That's how big their parking lot is. And sometimes you'll see people taking pictures of the building. We think it's espionage, you know, we think that there's something really strange going on there. You can find a website for them. It's some kind of energy administration, but it's not a government entity that any of us have heard of. It's not issuing press releases. It's not a cabinet position or anything like that. It's a real strange place. And the fact that it's staffed 24 hours a day with so many people, like, what is going on? I find that really strange. You know, you drive by here 3 a.m., packed full of cars. Where are these people then? Are they talking about it? I think they're all bound by, you know, classified information, so they don't talk about it. But I remember going to the website, they had jobs for janitors and stuff like that, but it's weird, man. That's all. So we're finally intersecting Highway 150 eastbound with Interstate 49 northbound, also known as US 71. It has been renamed. Now, I have made an error here. What's my error? I'm driving on the inside of two semi-trucks turning left in a dark, rainy condition. That is a really bad move. You shouldn't do that, because if those trucks turn too tight, they hit you, or if you turn too wide, you hit them. So ideally, I would have gotten behind the trucks, even if I'd missed the cycle of the light. It's worth it. They're on the outer lane for a reason. They need the space to turn. However, there was a passenger car in front of the frontmost truck, so that's what kind of saves my hide. I will be able to accelerate faster than the trucks and enter the highway sooner than the trucks do. So it's not a huge, you know, mistake, and frankly, they are supposed to stay in their lane, but easier said than done, because can you see this dotted lane line? I can barely see it. Thankfully, I drive through this area a lot. I know the road, and like I said, it is a curve, but I'm going to accelerate as best I can so that I'm ahead of these trucks, get around the trucks, stay ahead of them. Alright, here we are in the sea of red. Just nothing but cars wishing they were going faster. So this road, if you take it, it will take you into eastern downtown Kansas City, Missouri. And you can also intersect with 670, which will take you to Kansas and beyond. So if you were going from Grandview, which is the city we're in now, to, say, Lawrence, you would take this to 670, which would eventually intersect with 70 proper, westbound, and you may pay a toll, actually, to go to Lawrence. More people talking in the chats, saying hi, hello to you, appreciate you. Welcome to the Gym Nation. This is today we're commuting in the rain, so just kind of documenting what happens, because sometimes things get a little dicey. People drive rather poorly in Kansas City when it's raining. They drive too slow and cause hazard. They drive too fast, cause hazards. They get into crashes and block the roads. I mean, just dumb things happen in the dark and the rain in this area. I did make a judgment call today to take this route to work as opposed to more sort of urban travel, which would have had more illumination but more stoplights. stopping in this car in the rain, not wise. The more stops you have, the worse it is for fuel economy, and the worse it is for your, brakes, safety, in rainy conditions. So, by opting for the more highway route, the only stops I had were the train crossing and then one light, and then the light to get on this highway. So that's 3 stops versus probably up to 15 stops, probably, if I'd gone the other way. And the maps always say it's faster to go the other way, but what are the odds that the route that takes you by Chick-fil-A and all the businesses is the faster one? It almost always is by those algorithms, because that's what I think what they want. I think they get paid money. Well, I know they get paid money to direct you to those businesses. I once had a barber tell me that they direct traffic by his building, $500 a month. This was a country barber. He said, I don't have $500 a month. That's crazy. That's basically his rent payment, probably. Alright, so traffic in the rightmost lanes dying down. Not what we want to see. My phone battery dying down, also not what we want to see, so I may have to sign off here sooner than otherwise, but we're getting through here. 2 miles is my next intersection, I-470, and we'll hopefully have a little bit more movement on the roadway there. It's funny that I'm driving the one car without an umbrella in it. I've got 3 cars. The other 2 have umbrellas. And the one I'm driving today doesn't have one. So, what are you going to do? And of course, I want to look nice for a Zoom meeting today. An important public figure. So I'm sure it'll ruin my hair and all that good stuff. Okay. Well, half a mile down our 2-mile trek. We're going about 52 miles an hour. Grandview, Missouri, which is a southern suburb of Kansas City, Missouri. Now, North Kansas City, Missouri is a city, but South Kansas City, Missouri is not a city. It is just a term that people say South Kansas City. But there is a pretty significant band of land that is considered South Kansas City. It has really annexed so much land over time that it is sprawled through very inconsistent, non-homogeneous sort of territory, a lot of woods and wilderness and country neighborhoods in the north and south and east. Not so much west, because Kansas kind of blocks that from happening. We can't annex land outside of Missouri. I need to get over. See some more activity in the chat. I can't quite pay attention to that this morning, but hello to you and thank you for joining. Always nice to see folks sometimes all over the world are getting in the chat saying hi from places I've never been, put it that way. But so far, it's always been a place I knew a little something about, so it's fun to have those conversations. Okay, alright, I should have slowed down. See a red up ahead. The dark red is obviously the brake lights illuminating over the running lights. And got to pay more attention to that. Be more proactive. One tip Department of Transportation always share is don't use cruise control in weather like this. And I think there's 2 good reasons for that. One is your reaction time is going to be slower, right? And the second one is, I think in older cruise control technologies, if you encounter a really slippery area of the roadway, you could spin out. And because your wheels are turning automatically without any sort of thoughtful pressure on the accelerator. And I think that's a real risk. And I haven't seen it or heard of it much, but it's something that occurs to me that is a real good reason to avoid cruise control in rainy conditions. Okay, we've got a big truck moved over for me. Appreciate that. Exit only, and Ron moved over for himself. Oh, I just saw a shadow. I thought there was another car. So, when you're right behind a semi-truck, you've got spray in your face. That really impacts visibility. So I'm trying not to follow him, even though a little bit faster. Or I read it precisely because of what I'm doing. But good morning to you, and thanks for joining on our way to Erie. Running late for work, but in this weather, you know, the workforce is usually a bit late getting in, so I'm in good company for the most part. When I was a young buck, I would, set my alarm earlier on rainy days to account for that and make sure I was on time when everybody else wasn't. I really care about being the conscientious employee who got there no matter what. And I think for young people who want to make a splash and grow in their career, that's some good advice to think about. Is, when it snows outside, I would go outside and shovel my driveway at 4 in the morning and leave for work an hour with an extra hour to spare. I had a different snow route that I took. It took even longer, so it was an extra long, commute. I would be the one who made it on time. And, when you're in your 20s and 30s, I think that's some pretty good advice. It really shows that you care about your job and advancing yourself. And in a world of competitive positions, especially with AI and everything else, I think that's pretty good advice to follow. Is to always make sure that your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, even when, don't be the person who's ever in a... I just lost all my viewers. That's hilarious. Of course, telling people to work hard is going to cost you viewers, but, my point is people who can show an effort, really want to show an effort in the workplace, and do things like that. I never took time off on holiday weeks. Obviously the holidays you take off because the office closes, but in the week around holidays, all the bosses go home, and guess who gets to be in charge? The young guy. So, anyways, my point is for younger people trying to move up in a competitive workplace is, when you have a rainy day like this, show up, give yourself more time in the morning so you make sure you're at work on time. When you get to be kind of a middle-aged guy like me who has kind of run out of runway to grow, well, you can show up 10 minutes late because you've achieved a lot of what you wanted to achieve already. So, anyway, there's your... I was rated a phenom under 40 by one of my industry recognition groups. And anyway, that was some advice I gave to the folks at a conference when they flew me out to speak and featured me in a magazine and all this kind of thing. But now I'm no longer under 40, so I guess I'm out to pasture, if you will. But as I was saying, I think that's good advice to, hedge against everything. Hedge against the snow, hedge against the rain. This is the point I was making before everybody got mad. Don't be put in a position to have to make an excuse to your boss. If you don't get put in the position of having to make an excuse, that will always be a strategic advantage to you. So instead of being forced to say, sorry I was late, it was raining, set your alarm 15 minutes, everybody fled again. I'm giving people what I consider good advice, and they're all fleeing the chat here. But again, as I was saying, if you don't put yourself in an excuse to have to make an excuse, in a position to have to make an excuse, you will be better off, right? So instead of having to say, well, sorry, it was the rain, it made me late, just get up earlier on the rainy days, know it's going to take longer, build in the extra time. You're not the guy making that excuse. And maybe the people above you have to make that excuse. And then how do you look versus how they look? Okay, we're talking some gold mines here of advice, in my opinion. Now, I am no corporate politics expert, I can tell you that. I'm very good at handling my own business, but when it comes to, jockeying and if I was in a matrix environment where everybody's, I don't know, I can't see myself in that environment. I don't think I would be paid enough to play that game, so it wouldn't really matter. But I think for a lot of sort of early career professionals, that's a real issue, learning to politic. Because guess what? You're going to be competing with AI, and so am I. So how am I competing with AI? Well, you can't beat it, join it, right? That's been kind of the mantra of any survivor in corporate America. So I've started to get my feet wet with AI. I create a newsletter once a day. Read a newsletter once a day about AI called There's an AI for That. And that newsletter kind of gives me a lot of information about what even exists in the AI realm. Because, I always knew peripherally a lot of AI extensions exist for Chrome and so on. But what actually exists out there is apps. And there are developers who are working tirelessly to create modules, and I think they're all kind of run by hedge funds because they all have the same website layout, but they're all trying to do something to kind of garner users and monetize. They're essentially treating, chat GPT tokens as investments. So they invest in the tokens to create these apps and modules that they then turn around and sell on a subscription basis to users. Now, even if you only had one user use the app for a year, you're probably coming pretty close to paying back your costs. So if you get 10 users, I would venture at 10 users a year, you're making a profit. So anyway, these guys are all out there slinging their products. They do things like you can take a track, any kind of song, you can put it in this AI module, and it will strip the audio off the song and turn it into a karaoke track. That's pretty cool, right? And I didn't know that existed until yesterday when I read it in a newsletter. So an app exists that does that. There's an app that allows you to search a large quantity of video material in your computer. So if you're a professional photographer, you can search all of your hard drives and pull things, Obviously that's a subscription paid product, but it's pretty cool. I've been looking at apps that generate apps. You type in what you want, and it creates an app interface for our users. Web-based apps for now, not App Store. All right, we've got some idiots joining the highway at a really slow pace, causing some problems. As I said would be done, as they want to do, as they say. Guys, we still have 15 minutes left of this drive, and I was supposed to be at work right now. That just shows you how slow we are moving today. I am getting passed by a 53-foot semi-truck trailer, so maybe I should be going a little faster. But I honestly don't feel too comfortable going much faster. And why is that? because we've reached exit 11, ladies and gentlemen. Strother Road. I consider this to be a very dangerous stretch of this roadway. I've been hit here by a car before. It was not fun. I got sent over into the grassy median right in this area. And the guy ran away, drove away. It was a silver BMW. A certain person I recognized. Actually, no, I didn't know who was driving. But I did remember some numbers of the license plate. So we did some searching, and sure enough, the license plate, we did searches on silver BMW 325s made between 2002 and 2007 because I was confident it was one of those. Found the car registered to somebody in Lee's Summit, Missouri, which is the town we're in. And I thought, interesting. What are the odds if I continue to drive this stretch of road at the same time every day, I'll run into this car again? Also commuting from work at the same time every day. Well, some time goes by, about a few months, and it happens. I see the same silver car with an X6 in the license plate driving on this road with me on the other direction. And to really prove who it was, their car was damaged on the front bumper from where they had hit me, all those months ago. So I found the culprit of the hit and run. And instead of calling the police after finding the person who hit me and left me for dead, I didn't call the police. And in fact, I let them go. I forgot about it. Because my wife didn't want to do that. She was pretty upset with me. But I found the forgiveness within me because I realized this person, despite having a BMW, was not having a good life. I mean, why else would you hit and run somebody? Their car was still not fixed. Well, my car was fixed, and I wasn't hurt. So what am I trying to do here? What do I need from this person at this point in my life? I need nothing. Obviously, if they can't afford to fix their car, they don't have the money to pay me whatever I paid to fix my car, which was bad. I had no coverage for the car. Actually, it put me in a really tough spot. So my insurance agent was corrupt, and he let me drop my collision coverage on my car, which also dropped my UMPD coverage, which I was contractually obligated to carry by my lien holder. So I owed money on the car, about $4,000. So what happened? I have no insurance. I have the note called on the car. I have to fix the car. So I decide the car has frame damage. I don't want to fix it. So what do you do now? I pay off the car using my savings. I then sell it for next to nothing on a trade-in on another new car, which I had to put a down payment on and had to pay sales tax on. I basically destroyed my life by getting hit and run on this highway, and that was pretty rotten. So when I found the guy who caused all this trouble for me, the fact that I was able to forgive them and not even report them or go after them civilly, I'm thankful that I found that forgiveness, and it was genuine forgiveness and genuine desire for peace. And I don't think anybody else in my life agreed with me, but I think having the courage to do what's right to you, even when others don't agree with you, is important. And a lot of times passed since then, and everything worked out for the best in the end. But man, to be a young guy like that in his 20s, having all that bad stuff happen, I had a wife, and I had a kid, a little baby kid at the time. Man, that sucked. But anyways, there's your story for the day. Sheesh. Be thankful, guys. It's the month of Thanksgiving. I think on that note, I'm signing off. The rain's gone. Life is good. Be good, y'all.